Mark chapter 10, beginning at verse 17. As Jesus was setting out on a journey, a man ran up and knelt before him and asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. You know the commandments: you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not defraud, honor your father and mother." And he said to him, "Teacher, I have kept all those since my youth." Jesus, looking at him, loved him and said, "You lack one thing. Go, sell what you own and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." And when he heard this, he was shocked and went away grieving, for he had many possessions. Let's say you have 20 minutes to pack. A storm is headed in your direction. The horizon is dark and threatening. A tornado is bearing down on your house and home. You have no choice. You have to get out. You have 20 minutes. It's not much time, about the length of a sermon. Not much time to decide what is really important to you. Not much time to ponder what to hold on to and what to give up. What would you take? Do you run for the fireproof box that you have under the bed that contains the deed to the house, the insurance papers, and your will? Do you try to squeeze in your big screen television? I guess you have to take the dog and the rabbit and the fish. Do we have to take the fish? Do you root around for your photo albums because those pictures can't be replaced? Do you go after your wedding portraits with you in your baby blue tuxedo and the bride with the big hair that was so fashionable in the 70s, and the fuchsia bridesmaid dresses that now make you shake your head and sigh and say, "What were we thinking back then?" Do you pick up that one and only heirloom that belonged to your grandmother and that you remember her by? What about that jewelry box of the good silver that you never use? Do you try and keep it simple, a change of clothes and a couple of blankets? What would you take? Practical stuff, precious stuff, or essential stuff? What to keep? What to leave behind? Of course, at times our life is about this very thing, about letting go and hanging on. But most of the time, the decision doesn't have to be made in 20 minutes or less. From the time we are children until life's end, the journey is an endless series of letting go and hanging on and letting go again. Watch a toddler on the verge of walking. She will pull herself up by the coffee table and try to balance herself by alternately hanging on and letting go until she has mastered it. And that is just the beginning. Hanging on and letting go follows us our entire lives. Sometimes we can do it, and sometimes we can't. When I visit folks who have moved to nursing home communities and retirement homes, I'm always amazed how people have managed to let go of 40 or 50 years worth of memories and just bring a few things to a smaller and newer residence. I might ask why they brought what they did and how they made their peace with giving up a lifetime of collected stuff. It's not easy, but of course the day will come to us all. Sometimes it's common sense, this business of hanging on and letting go. But just because it's common sense doesn't mean that it's easy or that we get it right a lot of the time. Sometimes it's just about small moments involving day-to-day decisions. Others are major milestones involving birth and marriage and death. Sometimes we let go of the wrong thing And sometimes we hang on to something we should have let go a long time ago. Old hurts and grudges that we should have tossed on the dung heap of time years ago. A grief that we refuse to observe and walk through haunts us all of our life. The fear of the unknown keeps us hanging on to a dead-end way of life instead of going out there and risking something new and healing and life-giving. A rich young ruler came to Jesus on his knees, if not literally, then at least metaphorically on his knees. He was earnest and genuine. With a Wall Street executive intensity, he looked up and asked Jesus, "What can I do to inherit eternal life?" It's a good question, really. Maybe, as some of us have thought, this man is in the middle of a midlife crisis. This man has done everything he was supposed to do. He has got everything his culture has told him that he needs: a rewarding career, a lovely spouse. We imagine somewhere lurking in the background are 2 kids, a dog, a house with a white picket fence. This man has lived a charmed life. He's got everything. And then one clear night, he finds himself looking at the stars and feeling lost and wondering, so now what? He finds he's living in a paradox. He's got it all, but something is missing. And so he hears of this eccentric itinerant rabbi. He goes looking for some spiritual guidance. He says, "I've seen enough, the good and the bad. I know where it's headed. No matter how much I do or achieve, one day it will be over. I have an expiration date on my forehead. Can you help me out, Jesus? Is there an anecdote? What can I do to inherit eternal life?" In response, Jesus doesn't talk to him about his convictions. He doesn't say, "You must attend a religious meeting. You have to attend church every week." Instead, Jesus points to the Torah, the Jewish law, the commandments. Don't murder, be faithful to your wife, don't steal, tell the truth, always tell the truth, take care of your parents and your family. The man smiles. He thinks he's done a pretty good job here. I've kept all the commandments since I was a young boy, he says. Jesus studies him for a minute or so. Then he looks up at the blue sky and off to the hills. What do you say to someone who is perfect and keeps all the commandments flawlessly? Jesus says there's just one more thing. Sell everything you own, give the money to the poor, then come and follow me. That is all that God requires of you, nothing less than everything. The man's face turns ashen. He feels the eyes of everyone looking at him. He stands up and walks away in a daze. He never imagined that the price would be so high. So what are we to do with this strange story? We who have mortgages, bills to pay, university funds, RRSPs, sell everything you have? Let it all go? Are we all supposed to become St. Francis of Assisi, living under the open sky, having dinner with the birds? Maybe. I'll admit to you that I don't know what to do with it. This story has always made me uncomfortable for the very reason that we in North America have a lot of stuff. We make a sport around here complaining about taxes and the price of gasoline, but make no mistake, relative to how most of the world lives, you and I are as rich as kings and queens, and secretly, we know it. And it is true that the Bible has a lot to say about wealth and material possessions. While in polite company it may be taboo to talk about money, Jesus didn't shy away from the subject. Something like 1 in 13 verses in the Bible pertain to what we do with our stuff. So if Jesus' words here don't make us uneasy, then perhaps we're not listening close enough to him. Still, I think that this encounter with this rich man is not really about money or greed. The issue is deeper. This man has got seemingly everything that the world has to offer. Could it be that the last and essential thing he needs to acquire is the capacity to let it all go? In the circle of Presbyterian ministers I travel, there is a light-hearted approach to the season of Lent. We are aware of the season of Lent just enough to ask one another, what are you giving up for Lent? I've been paying close attention, and so far I've heard all the standard resolutions. No more junk food, no more chocolate or road rage, no more Toronto Maple Leafs, just to name a few. And perhaps my favorite, one brave soul, for these 40 days and nights, plans to make the ultimate sacrifice and abstain from all forms of Facebook. The writer Nora Gallagher tells of entering a church on Ash Wednesday. She encounters a friend who declares that for Lent, Anne's giving up drinking, Terry's giving up chocolate, and I'm just giving up. Lent, as I understand the traditional religious discipline, tells us that Easter and resurrection and new life will be ushered in when we let go. Lent is not about making resolutions or finally getting your life under control or learning those skills or concepts that will allow you to become more competent, more effective, more accomplished. This is not about adopting a new plan or strategy or formula. The heart of the Lenten practice is not about giving up chocolate or giving up TV or giving up midnight snacks. Lent is about giving up control. Lent is about practicing giving up control. This is a season when we are asked to remember that we belong to something larger than ourselves and our own preferences, our own habits and limitations. We are invited to adopt those practices of prayer that will help us turn our faces in the direction of what gives us life. The words "let go" strike fear into the hearts of many Presbyterians. We seem to have a preference for the illusion that we are captains of our own destiny. We are in charge and in control. We are planners, decision makers, movers and shakers. The words "let go" mean to abdicate control, to release, to surrender, to give up our sense of possessiveness, our definitions of mine and not mine. The novelist Annie Dillard calls letting go occupying the gaps, going into the mystery, leaving behind our itsy-bitsy statues and saving accounts and daily planners, and spending freely all of our time, letting go of what we are grasping and clutching and holding on to, and entering into a much larger and spacious world in which we belong, in which we are held and carried and awakened to what sustains all life. William James, in The Varieties of Religious Experience, describes this letting go as a process of surrender where we must give something away. A native hardness must break down and liquefy. The poetry of letting go is lovely, but of course the cost can seem steep. We will be asked to let go of our children as they become adults. We will be asked to let go of the walls we have so carefully constructed that we believe will protect us. We will be asked to let go of what we believe is right now in our possession, the little that we think we have. But the promise is that in letting go, in learning to let go, we will find God. We can let go holding only to the promise of Christ that those who lose their lives for His sake will find them again. You have probably heard the old story that Truman Cummings used to tell. The story is about a man who was standing on the edge of a cliff when the earth underneath him gave way. He began falling into the abyss, but somehow was able to grasp onto a tiny root growing out of the side of the embankment. As he held onto the root for dear life, it too began to give way. He began to pray, "Oh God, help me." And he heard a voice in reply, "Yes?" The man said, "I hear a voice. Who are you? Can you help me?" The voice said, "Yes, I can. I'm God." And the man said, "Oh God, thank you for answering my prayer. I'll do anything you say, just save my life." And God says, "Okay, I'll save you." And the man says, "Then tell me what to do." And God says, "Let go." And the man thinks he's not hearing the voice right. He says, "Let go." And God says, "Yes, let go." The man says, "You mean let go of this root here that I'm holding on to for dear life?" And God says, "Yes, let go of the root." And the man says, "Is there anybody else up there?"